All right, folks, today I wanted to talk about something a little different from my usual videos, but definitely relevant, especially in these tough times, and that is mental well-being, specifically with regards to social media. So, whenever the world isn't quite right, and let's face it, it hasn't been quite right for a while, the pandemic has just really brought it much more to the forefront, and especially with the media always being eager to clickbait and dramatize and fearmonger. Whenever you're on social media, it's easy to just get kind of trapped in it. Now, it's essential in some ways, especially now, because it allows you to connect with other people that you wouldn't otherwise be able to, or at least not as easily. So, on the one hand, it's good, but on the other hand, it can also be detrimental in ways that kind of accumulate over time and that you may not quite notice. So this also applies to YouTube as a content creator, or really anyone who posts anything publicly about themselves, or it doesn't even have to be about them, just anything with them in it, essentially. That generally opens you up to all kinds of, criticism is the positive side of it, if it's constructive. The negative side of it is, haters. Now, sometimes that label is applied just to deflect criticism, but I mean those people, basement trolls and all that, who just have nothing better to do than tear people apart and, insult them, disrespect them, etc., etc. You know what I'm talking about, right? You see that all the time. So it's easy to just think, it's no big deal. It's just words. It's just some stranger on the internet. Whatever. No big deal. And it isn't. It really isn't, as an isolated case. If it's just one douchebag every now and then talking shit about you, whatever. But if it happens frequently, and over many years, it has an effect. It sure does. It's easy, especially for us dudes, to just be like, "Oh, suck it up. You just gotta toughen up. It's no big deal. Sticks and stones, all of that." Over time, as it accumulates, just like stressors accumulate. There's major stressors, like a breakup or losing your job or what have you, accidents, that's major stressors. But there's also minor stressors or micro stressors, or whatever the hell you want to call it, that can happen all the time. Like, for example, think of you're in an airplane, and somebody behind you is kicking the seat every now and then. Just lightly, not even like, but just a little bit. How nerve grating does that get over time? Somebody keeps just lightly kicking you in the back over and over again for hours. It drives you nuts, doesn't it? Even though each individual kick is no big deal. And just a word about mental resilience. I'm not saying that it's good to be hypersensitive or anything. Is it good to have a thick skin that things just bounce off of? Well, duh, obviously. But you also have to know yourself. Everybody's psychology is a little different. Some people suffer from social anxiety or rejection-sensitive dysphoria, and some people just have more stressors in their everyday life. That's why I'm talking about managing your resources. You have to be aware of how much you can handle, and if more comes in than you can process over time, then you have to figure out what to do about it to limit that volume of negative input and stressors. So if you're already stressed out, maybe you should limit your exposure to the drama fest that is the news media. Maybe you shouldn't immerse yourself in random conspiracy theories on the internet to the point where you start thinking everybody is after you. You have to figure out ways to deal with that. One is this right here. Get out, get away from all the bullshit on social media. And, it really just kind of makes it all slide off you, just being out here, because you realize what some rude dickhead on the internet says about you, especially considering that they're most likely compensating for something. A lot of these trolls and like really aggressive, insulting people, they've got some kind of issue. Generally, they have unresolved emotional troubles, they have insecurities that they're desperately trying to hide. When you're out in nature, like this, you just realize it's all trivial. It doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. But you have to get away from it every now and then, because otherwise, if you're just immersed in it every day, part of your brain is like, okay, we're dealing with this every day. This is just part of our lives. This must be important, right? Because it happens frequently, and there's a lot of emotional reaction, so it must be kind of important, right? So over time, it can just it gets worse. It really does. So that's one thing. And the other is managing your mental and emotional resources. So I used to try really hard to read everything, basically. Every comment, or at least as much as I can. There's way too many, obviously, but at least as many as I could. And over time, I just realized it comes with a cost. Now I'm lucky. My channel isn't really infested with trolls and Call of Duty kitties and who knows what else, other random pests and troublemakers of the internet. But, every now and then it happens. And with the sheer volume of comments, even though the percentage of shit like that is low, it's still, the total numbers are there. And over time it does kind of add up. It can sometimes come back to you in unexpected ways further down the line. It's one thing to be kind of irritated or pissed off or have some other kind of reaction in the moment when you see it, but part of it kind of sticks with you a little bit. And it's of course different. Somebody who has a more neurotic personality, so to speak, and a more negative outlook in general is going to be affected by that a little more. But even the most optimistic person, if you keep telling them over and over again that there's something wrong with them, it does add up. Maybe don't read everything. I'm not here to tell you how to run your channel, but it's a tendency that I've seen with people. It's easy whenever you see a large channel that gets hundreds of thousands or even millions of views, and see that they're not really engaging with the audience, or very rarely, and just be like, yeah, the success got to you. You're too good for the plebs now, are you? But chances are that's not what it's about. Like, for example, Total Biscuit, rest in peace, he decided at one point to just, I forgot if he disabled comments. I think he did. Either way, he decided to stop engaging with them because of exactly this. It just had too much of an impact on his mental health. And I totally understand that. And, so should you. My suspicion is a lot of people pretend they will just be like, oh, look at this little loser in his basement, whatever. But on some level, it does register, at least in the back of their mind. I can't speak for other people, but I have a feeling that it more often affects them than they really care to admit. Another takeaway is maybe try not to be an asshole to other people. Whether it's IRL or on the internet, maybe try to treat them decently. I know I might as well be arguing with a tatami mat for all it matters. That kind of person won't stop. It doesn't matter what you tell them. So yeah, if I had to condense it to some bits of advice, is 1, take a step back every now and then, get away from social media, maybe get out if you can, go for a walk, things like that, exercise in a healthy way. 2nd, support from friends and family is always good, especially in pandemic times, etc. And maybe asking them, because here's the other thing, there is a danger in the temptation to just dismiss all criticism, just be like, what do these fuckers know? They have no idea. They're just haters, and they got nothing, and I'm awesome. That you shouldn't really do that either. At least in my opinion, you should definitely be open to constructive criticism. You easily recognize constructive criticism when you see it, because it has actual arguments as opposed to just personal insults and all that. So that's a different story. Like, you should definitely be open to criticism, and you should be open to the possibility that, probably you should change and improve some things. So maybe you can ask somebody who knows you well, and ask them, so I got this and that criticism, what do you think? Are they up to something? Have I been screwing up in some way, or how do you think could I improve? And third, don't be afraid to remove toxic people from your life, especially if it's in real life, if it's family members or quote-unquote friends. If they sabotage your progress toward your goals, or if they think you should be something that you're not and you don't want to be, or if they make unreasonable demands, etc., it may just be time to cut ties. Online, that means don't be afraid to ban people. Give them chances, for sure, warn them. But if they keep doing it over and over and over again, they won't stop trolling, they won't stop bothering you, they won't stop insulting you, just gone. And don't listen to their bullshit tirade of, I'm being censored, you're against free speech. No, this has nothing to do with that. You, as a content creator or as a person on social media, you're not the government. This is more akin to a store clerk or an artisan in their shop or something like that asking a troublemaker to leave. Because it's not a public space as such. It's owned by Google, okay? And we as content creators manage that space. And as somebody who manages the space, it's well within your right to tell somebody they're not welcome. And if they refuse to leave, then you have to make them. Just the same way as if there is a customer in a store and they keep going around insulting every other customer and the person behind the register, etc., and they're being a real nuisance, yeah, guess what? Somebody's going to call the cops or security or whatever, and they will be escorted out. You're free to express yourself, but you're not free from consequences. So, yeah, don't be afraid to go nuclear if you have to. Do it sparingly. I definitely advise you to do it sparingly, because it's too easy to just, don't ever ban somebody just because they disagree with you, okay? That's a douchey move, and now you're part of the problem. But there comes a point where the behavior is just so out of line and so disrespectful that you shouldn't respect it either, and the person behind the behavior. So yeah, I think that shall be it. This is probably quite a long video. Hope you found it somewhat helpful, maybe. Feel free to share your own experiences and your advice on managing mental and emotional resources, things like that. Thanks for watching. That's all I got. Have a good one, folks.